Okay. Thanks everybody for coming. Just to make things official, I'm Steve Rosenberg. This is the Public Outreach Committee meeting on Monday, April 28th, 2025 at 7:34 p.m. Let's quickly go around and introduce ourselves and state our affiliations. So I'm Steve Rosenberg and I'm a representative from Moortown.
And Bobby Roode, I'm a representative from Waitsfield.
Ashley Woods. Oh, sorry. Ashley Woods. I'm a representative from Warren and the board chair.
Rebecca Bruzzi, representative from Fayston.
Okay, come on, Shannon's.
Pick a Shannon.
Shannon Konvicka. This is actually my maiden name on the computer. I am an outreach committee member.
Shannon Wisdom, Harwood Unified Union Central Office employee, and I'm Director of Enrollment and Communications and some other stuff.
And
Okay.
Shannon Dumfrey Konvika, you are,
There we go.
I assume, in one of the communities, or just
Oh,
a board? Or
Warren.
Warren, okay.
Yeah.
A Warren parent, great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. That's the board members present. I have to check and see if anyone from the public is here. I'm not sure. And yeah, I don't see any. Okay. And I'm toggling back and forth to the agenda. The first business is to elect a chair. And
I nominate Steve Rosenberg.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Yeah.
yes. Okay. Okay.
All those in favor
Any
say
discussion?
Aye.
Wait a minute. What about the
And then wait,
competition?
Steve, do you accept the
You have
nomination?
no choice here.
Do you accept the nomination, Steve? You
Yeah,
have-
apparently I do.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Sure.
Who seconded? I'm taking the notes.
I second it.
Or Bobby.
All of us did.
Okay,
Shannon,
group
you're going
second.
to take notes?
I'm taking the minutes.
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh, yes.
yeah, I know. I know. Okay, if there's no discussion, let's vote. All in favor of Steve Rosenberg being the committee chair for this year?
Aye.
Right, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for being willing.
Yeah.
Sure.
And you did a
So-
great job last time. So
Well, thank you.
you've grown into the role.
I'm really pleased to have people with expertise as public members of the committee, believe me.
Love it. Me too.
Okay, I think there is no public comment. So we can just get on to the main topic of the meeting, which is what do we want to do this year and how can we use Shannon and Asher's expertise to move us along. I also did get some feedback from the two Lisas, the editors of the Valley Reporter and the Waterbury Roundabout, which I'll pass along at some point soon. So Asher, put together a terrific webpage on the district on the district's website for the budget vote when we had so much trouble with it, and he's willing to do the same thing for the various proposals from for consolidation, kind of a consolidation webpage. So my feeling is everybody's saying, oh, well, that's on hold now. It's great because we're waiting for 2X Collins to do their detailed assessment in the summer. But I think we should kind of get going because things have a way of sneaking up on us. So I'm sorry Asher isn't here, but
Are we sure he knows? Should I send him a text? Are we sure he maybe he just didn't know it was, he, sometimes I almost miss things because I don't.
okay, he did get an email invitation, but if you want to send him a text,
I'll just
sure.
shoot him a text.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it's okay with everybody, I would encourage him to continue with putting together a webpage about consolidation options. Does that
I
sound
already
good?
wrote a bunch of stuff that he can just pull too.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, right. So one thing we do have to work out in this meeting is Shannon sent us a bunch of material and we have
Too
to
much.
sort out how, yeah, how to pick and
Good
choose
thing.
from it for what we need.
And I had I had some, one comment about the second item on Shannon's, um, list. So I wanted to talk
Sure.
about that. I mean, should I just
Go
mention
ahead.
it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, one of the suggestions was to have a board meeting recap template. And we had done board meeting recap before. Um, and the
Hmm.
risk with having it be a recap of the minutes is that the minutes are a legal document that gets published. And so, one piece of feedback we had was, well, then you're kind of recreating the minutes. And if you make an error, it could come under dispute. And, we don't need to, we pay somebody who takes excellent minutes. And all people have to do is go to the website and find the board minutes. But one thing that might be helpful is really helping people know how to navigate our website that, I think so that they know where to look for the minutes. Um, and I don't know if this recap, was some other idea. I mean, I think the idea was to have things, that people readily read. But we do have the minutes. So that was my only reaction to that. And it created more work because it was like we have somebody taking minutes and then a board member had to write the recap.
Yeah,
It
Um,
was
we got
problematic
rid
in
of
a
the
lot of
recap.
ways.
yeah,
Yeah,
a lot of
that
things.
yeah, I kind of agree with you that there's room for error because we witnessed that, and also we didn't have a lot of enthusiasm to do that project, so it
Right.
fell on just a couple of board members over and over again. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I
However,
do think navigating is important, though, navigating the website.
I agree. I was going to second that. When I joined the board, I found it very hard to find information on the district webpage. And now that I've been on for a while, oh, it's easy. I know where everything is. You just do these 5 clicks and there you are. But, if there's way to do some school board webpage reorganization so that minutes are very easy to find, things like that.
Yeah. We,
Yeah, I know this board has
we
happened
had
for a
features.
while.
What did you say?
Yeah, so I know that you guys have been running this committee for a while and then actually stopped all committees and then this started again. And so I would love to know like why this committee exists, like what problem are we providing a solution for before we get into the,
Sure.
It's in bolts.
really
Yeah.
far in the weeds? If we could
Yep.
start in that place, it would be helpful.
Just so you know, I didn't stop all committees. Committees end at the end of a given year. It's not really, I mean, the committees can all come back into play, but it's just that we have new boards, so we have to start over.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's
That was
just a-
not it wasn't a Stiga.
That's it.
No,
Oh,
No
it
more
wasn't like
committees.
just because
Yeah.
Ashley decided that nobody's
No
going to
more
talk anymore.
committees. No,
Okay,
not at all.
but
It's they're ad hoc
reconstitute
as
board.
needed. Yeah.
So some,
Yeah.
So your
And-
question is, what's our charge?
yeah.
Mhm.
Why are we doing this? And I mean,
Okay.
obviously to communicate with people, but we've got a bunch of different topics between what's happening at the state and what we're doing with Truex Collins, and then there's even just how we connect with our community better and for what purpose. So, if we had kind of a mission,
Yeah, we need a mission. I
I
agree
mean,
with
it's just
that.
where are we going?
Okay, well, I can take a stab at it. I mean, my feeling is the committee came into existence after the budget was rejected 2 years ago. This kind of was a shock to us. And we felt that we hadn't done a good job at reaching out to the community and explaining why we had voted for the budget we did. We thought there was just tremendous need for more outreach. And I think that was true across the states. School boards in general felt kind of blown away by this massive rejection of the budgets. So
Which
that's
was
our kind of origin, which is, only a little more than a year ago. And I think now we feel the need with consolidation. Personally, I've felt like the board has always been a little behind the curve. We're always reacting to community members saying, "Oh my God, you're going to close my school." We're not in front of the situation saying, "Here's what we're going to do. Here's the options. Here's the difficulties." So I see the purpose of this committee as, just as in the name, public outreach, to keep people informed of what the school board is grappling with. Anybody else?
I'd add on to that historically it's been the school district was a vacuum for a long time. So we're kind of turning the Titanic a little bit on outreach, in that people were used to getting just stonewalled at the school board level and or at the admin level for a long time. It was not friendly. And we get accused constantly of being tone deaf. We're not listening. We're not getting out to be with the community. It just feels like this piece that's not, we have to really take it on. Like if we were to get the public to actually engage, we might actually have less misinformation out, as opposed to just people hearsay. I can't believe the things people say to me that they've heard.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, it's just not true. I mean, like, just lately, just in the last few days, I've seen in print that not that we are doing an assessment of our buildings, but that we are doing a study.
Yeah.
And that this is just yet another study. Well, that's not true. This isn't a study. This is a dissection of each building in terms of its physical needs. It's not a study. A study is like, I mean, the interpretation is the school board is doing another study.
Yeah.
And that's not the case. We are trying to meet the need of the admin to move, but we need to find out things. But how does that message get out properly? How do we do it right? That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see us, as Steve said, be out ahead of it, have our ducks in a row about how we feel about things. That's tricky. It has been tricky.
That is tricky because we can't really be ahead of something, because that requires some planning and what actually the decisions are made at the board level. So for decisions to be made and then this group to like quickly come together and figure out how to, best have the decision, have that information, make it to the public for reaction, seems very
I
difficult.
don't mean that exactly. I don't mean the board makes a decision and then we want to make sure it gets out there, right? I mean, as the board goes through decision-making processes, we have like the ability to engage the public in it as opposed to after it.
Right. That's like getting in front instead of reacting, which is what has happened sometimes in the past. And then some things you have to react because you didn't know the budget wasn't going to pass.
Yeah.
And so then it didn't pass. But Rebecca, I'm wondering, because you expressed an interest in being part of this. So what appeals to you about, or what is it that, I mean, we're all kind of answering that question. What do we want to be doing this year?
Well, I remember, the period of time Ashley was talking about where the board just kind of stonewalled and there was a total lack of trust and a lack of transparency. And, hiding behind procedure is kind of what happens. I didn't like that.
Right.
As somebody who really likes a democracy, I didn't like that. And so now being on the board, I want to make sure that that's not a piece of it. But to me, and so I ask that the back and forth is engagement. So it's not outreach. Right. Outreach is throwing out some information. And so it feels like if very specifically we were saying we want to talk about consolidation or the TrueX work, that's outreach. And those are things that we can take people along and give them more and more information as it's kind of happening. Engagement is really a back and forth and looks very different altogether. And so I just figure if we are having this organizational meeting and are really clear what we're going to do, we lose a lot of inertia when we're trying to do too many different things. Not us, but I've just been on a couple of committees. And so that's where my the question's kind of from.
You
But-
lose inertia if you have too many. You're doing too many things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then
No, yeah, I mean, I think that's when you gain the inertia, which everything's just too hard to move because you're not focused. I'll have to Google inertia. Maybe I'm using that improperly.
No, I think I
Okay.
hear that. I wonder, if we need to change the name to engagement and outreach then, because we are outreaching, but what we really need to do, I mean, as a board, I think what we have an opportunity to do is be different in how we engage, because that's just been not great. So I'm psyched to hear from Shannon, number 2, on how
too.
I'm this engagement piece, because I know that's something that you specialize in. I feel like we were sort of doing it with the bond discussion, and we were starting to get a little bit of a handle on how that could go. And then it got blown up by 127 and the failed budget and all that stuff. But I did get the sense that we were capable of it. We were capable of having community conversations, and it was kind of going well, but there's a lot of angles. So I'm more baffled than most, I would imagine, about how best to proceed.
So,
I mean, I would like to give Shannon, who I think of as the resident expert, a chance to talk. But first, I'm going to say something, which, looking through Shannon's stuff, which was, I thought, very impressive and more than we could handle, frankly. I was kind of looking for stuff maybe that isn't in our charge. And the one thing that stood out was having information about the ed reform package. And I mean, that's changing so quickly. And I thought, well, I kind of felt we can't do everything that Shannon listed. It's too much. So if I had to drop something, I would drop that. I don't know what other people feel about that.
Asher's jumping on. I just sent him the link.
oh, good.
Hey,
Well,
let me
actually-
ask that as a housekeeping question. Are we allowed to keep everything in Google Docs and just make it so that anybody that has the link can read it and then make that as part of the agenda, so we're not in any problems with open meeting law?
What do
Say
you
that
guys-
again. Sorry, say that. Start over.
I'm just thinking about some of the work that Shannon has done and the work that we're going to be doing ongoing, and having that in some sort of shared drive, like a Google Doc. If we can, allow anybody who has the link access to it, and then publish that with links wherever we publish anything else about this meeting, if that allows us to keep documents without having an issue with open meeting law.
Well, I think all our documents must be open
All-
to the
yeah.
public.
Everything's public.
But what
Right,
you
I get
can't
that.
do, yeah, go ahead.
And I'm asking about the mechanism for us to
Right.
have shared documents that we can change in real time.
Yes,
It's
we
a
do
good
that.
question. Yeah. What did you say, Ashley? Yes, it's okay.
Well, we do that. We
Yeah.
share documents and we work on them together. But
Right.
that's kind of how we operate. What you're not allowed to do is
Make a decision.
make,
Yeah.
or, do too much discussion, or I don't know, I guess you could change a document. Shannon Wisdom, can you change a document? If we're all working on a common document, that's not violating open meeting law if we're not talking to each other, right? I mean, it's talking we can't do in groups or communicating.
But-
There's no group text. You can't do that kind of thing,
Right. But everybody can see the edits we're doing, so I
Yeah,
don't think
so you
that's a
could do,
problem.
I think that's open, right?
We could double check on it, but I think that.
Yeah, I think it's
that
fine that.
Yeah, the open meeting is really, you can't really have a meeting outside of a meeting. In other words, you can't have a couple of board members get together and make a decision. It's just, it doesn't work that way. You have to be in a board meeting to make a decision. Because
And
those are
board
public-
members shouldn't even be talking in anything more than you can talk to a fellow board member one-on-one, but once you're heading into a quorum of any kind, you really shouldn't be doing that. And we
Right,
will catch something for it later.
yeah.
So what can go out in group emails and group chats is information, like when the next meeting is.
Yeah.
Well, and
But
I was thinking
no discussions of policy.
that a lot of documents will be generated, either
Yeah,
templates
yeah.
or some of the things that Shannon's
Yeah.
worked on already. And just for housekeeping, if we can have a shared drive that we have access to.
Well,
Yeah, absolutely. It'll go on the district's drive.
Yep, we have a shared drive and we
Yeah.
can use that.
Yes.
but it'd
And
be
can
very good
Shannon
to
use
label
it?
that's an active living document that can change, is subject to change. So people don't, I guess one thing I was reacting to is, you read in the paper, like even a letter to the editor, that I cut something out of the Valley Reporter. It was like, well, no, that's not exactly what we said. And so we just have to make sure that people know that, oh, this is a living document that's fluid, that changes. And then I guess you give edit access to those people who have the privilege, who you want
Yeah, yeah,
editing.
Committee members,
Yeah.
yeah.
something.
Right now, it seems like the only document that would go in that shared drive is Shannon DF's. Is that it? DF?
Yeah.
I have
No.
never met so many Shannons.
As you have now.
It is crazy. I grew up and the only other Shannon I knew was a boy 2 doors down. And I work with a lot of Shannons and this is anyway. Yeah,
That's
so
for
that's the only
Shannon's.
document right now. I can set that up. I can set that up in the shared drive and then make all of you contributors
Yeah.
and you can,
So you can create a folder
Okay.
for this committee.
yeah, I can put this
Yep,
in there.
that'd be
Yep.
great.
And then
Thanks.
what you'll end up doing is linking to the agenda all of those documents that you're going to talk about during the meeting, and those
Yep.
will all be public.
Yep. That's
So,
good.
Great. That'd be great.
Okay.
yeah.
Are we good at kind of on procedural issues for the moment? I do want to get to substantive issues, which
I just wanted
is
to quickly say hi. Apologies for being late. I had
no
a
problem.
wiffle ball injury that I needed
Oh,
to.
no.
Oh, no.
So, but we've sorted that, and I've also sorted getting on the Zoom. So I'm
Good.
here.
Good.
All right, thank you.
The only glitches are showing up as Ashley Woods.
For a couple of,
Because Ashley sent him her link.
yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know how to do it any
But
other
that's
way.
okay.
He
We're
can
both
change-
Ash. Go with that.
It works. I'm
And I
honored.
would
I'm
just ask
honored
that
to be
since we have-
Ashley Woods today.
Yeah.
Ashley, you actually look a little bit like you might be in pain. I hope not.
I'm
And
sunburned.
yeah.
Oh, easy.
And
Oh.
when we talk about Shannon, we have Shannon W and Shannon, should we
What do you
call it
prefer,
BK?
Convica. How about
Okay,
just,
this has to be
how about
violating some
Shannon?
procedural rules
Yeah,
to have
we're getting
Why
Shannon
don't you
Ashley
call me
Woods.
Ashley Woods too? I'll just make it simple.
That's right. Shannon 1 and 2. Shannon Wisdom and Shannon Dumphy
Woods.
Convica.
I'll be Shannon Woods.
Okay, Shannon Woods. Perfect. We're all in.
Okay. Let's get to business. So I think the two kind of immediate items I see is if we want to give Ashley Woods 2 or Asher the go-ahead to produce a web page about the consolidation options. And Asher, I'm assuming you're still willing to do that.
Yeah, I definitely want to get an update as to where things are and talk about the objectives for like what we want to communicate, but happy to help pull that together.
Okay. Why don't we spend a few minutes talking about that, and then we can look at Shannon's document and decide what's the most useful thing for us to do with that.
Can we have so Asher, everybody, I'm leaving tomorrow for like a month and I'll be very far away. So I won't be able to help with the build. So I made this document to hopefully provide some words to just give Asher since I can't really do much of a lift. And that was the point of the website information tab on this document. So I don't know if you guys want to look over that as like a place to start or if you want to try talking through something without like an outline or you know what I mean?
So which tab are you referring to,
Just
Shannon?
second down, website information.
All right.
Oh, apparently I am not seeing those.
So that came up for me as Vermont Education Reform Information Dashboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
It didn't.
I don't know. Yeah, that I'm seeing what you're talking about.
Okay. There's a tab that should be called Website Information Dashboard.
Okay.
There's such a tab, but when I click on it, this Vermont Education Reform Information Dashboard comes
Dashboard.
up.
That's
That's
it.
what you meant?
hmm
Okay. And then are you going to share it on the screen, Steve, or?
I don't know if you guys like, I think Asher can speak to what, what worked last time. And then this is just some ideas. So like, you can either write a lot of words or you can have, I mean, I don't know. What I know about
But
communicating with people is the simpler, the better. So I'm a huge fan of tables, so I'm a huge fan of links to things that aren't just from you guys, like real documents, other things that we're not creating.
right.
Um, right.
I think Asher agrees with you because the webpage he produced for the school budget
Okay.
had that philosophy and I thought
Yeah.
was really worked well.
Yeah.
So I think the question that I have is just I would love an update on where we are with the consolidation conversation because I think the objective was to share the various options and just make sure that there wasn't information swirl slash misinformation because we've seen that before that if we're not proactive and communicate here are the facts the vacuum is filled. What I'm seeing here from you, Shannon, is a much broader, like sort of state level
Yeah.
communication around
Yeah.
sort of what's happening at the state. And so I think those are two different objectives to communicate. And I just um I would love a quick update to see where we are at a local level, because I'm probably a number of weeks behind where other folks are to make sure we're aligned on the objective of the web page.
Okay, well, my take on it is, uh, well, Truex Collins is doing this detailed assessment of the schools this summer. So the board is not going to be taking action on narrowing down options fewer than the 6 we have. So a web page that discusses those 6 options and also highlights the option of just floating a bond. I think that would be very valuable.
Okay. So, which is a narrower scope than Vermont education sort of reform and the various proposals that are out there. So just
Yeah,
making
before
sure
you
we're aligned on that.
before you hopped on, uh, my feeling was we shouldn't devote our time to what's going on with the state as part of this committee's work because it's changing very quickly and it's it's complicated.
Yeah.
I think we have limited time that we want to volunteer, really.
However, Steve, I just thought maybe at least directing people if people are asking questions like, what are we going to do? Are you still able to think about what you're thinking about Harwood Board when things are changing at the state and how is that going to impact us? And so people are seeing a relationship between the two and at least providing them maybe, these are places you can go to get that information or, that I think this gets back to what Rebecca was saying almost that, we have a mission so that people understand, what our dashboards is about. And then maybe directing them if they have questions about the state or they want to know, what is the Harvard board going to do if everything changes at the state level?
Okay, I'll modify what I said. I can
Yeah,
see a page with some links to what's going on at the state level
yeah,
could be helpful, but I mean, it's such a fluid situation. And I
yeah.
mean,
Can
if
I
people
come?
want to know what the board's going to do, the answer is, I don't think we know.
Yeah. So
Shannon, please.
yeah, as a community member, it's like you're right. It's super complex and it's taken like a decent amount of input to just sort of or just time to figure out what is actually going on, what are the roles, where do people I just don't think many people will spend as much time as I have looking at this information, and it's still confusing, right? So I do feel like it will behoove you all if we do take this opportunity to also teach. We need to teach people what the role is of the school board, the state level, like sort of break it down for people because they don't know. And it's really difficult to find that information out there. And instead of getting maybe nitty-gritty into some of the information that might change, there is some overarching themes and information that people also should know. And we can direct them, but if we direct them to like to a bill.
Oh, that's true. That's not,
That's
Pages, yeah, it's
so annoying.
impossible. Yeah.
It doesn't help anyone.
they can, right, make it in their language. So, yeah, I think I really agree with
Let me
that.
call on Cindy, who was polite
Yeah.
enough to raise her hand.
Where is Cindy? Yeah, she was.
I'm here. Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I would just say, I don't even think we need to get into what the specifics are of the bills because that's what changes every day, literally.
Yeah.
But I think what people want to know is that they don't know what's going on. Something very basic like the governor submitted a proposal, the House has submitted a proposal, and it's now gone to the Senate so that people understand where it's going. I just think that, and then even just the very basic things like all of these different bills are including information about maybe 4 things. One is the issue of governance, the issue of consolidation of districts, different from the consolidation of schools that we're doing on a local level or looking at on a local level. Secondly, the way the state funds education, the whole idea of a foundation formula seems to be showing up in all of these proposals, and that people just understand that the very basics of that will be different from what we do now, where 5 sentences would do it, and then and basically what's going to happen with it, they just don't have any idea where it's even going. And I get a lot of questions from people about that. Well, what is going to happen? And I see it on the news, just the local news. So I just think some very basic things, not the content so specifically, as just what the process is. So people see that something's being done. People want to know that people are working on this and that it's being done, that we're trying to come up with some solutions.
Okay, I mean, I'm happy to say I'm changing my mind. I think this is a good idea, but so who is able to put together the material and who's able to put together the webpage?
She hasn't
It's
done.
in FAQs, dude. It has
Yeah.
more than you need, and I have exactly what she's looking for. And I'm just doing this because I literally cannot help for like the next, as long as you guys will do this. So just pick and pull whatever works, change.
I think FAQs are great for that and
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
specific thing, like with what's going on at the state, because what I don't get as many questions as Cindy's getting about the state. People are asking me why we're spending $100,000 to find out what's wrong with our buildings. That's what people I got it today.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of levels here, but the local levels, I think I personally would feel better if I could speak more soundly from a collective message when I'm out talking, like in terms of, it's not, just having somewhere to send people that it's clear information. And I will say that I do like Asher's blocks. I think that's very, that's easy for me to read. It's easy to get a gist of something. So I'm all for that design style. I think that I like that. And I'm glad you've done all this work before you went on vacation. That was very nice of you.
Yeah, really.
Okay, so it sounds like there's 2 objectives that we're
let me call on Shannon, please.
Sorry.
Uh-oh.
I was going to say that I think the FAQ that Shannon created, oh my God, what an amazing job you've done here. It's fantastic. As an editor, I've been an editor. This is like so much great stuff to pull from. And I think the FAQ will hit a lot of what our community members need to know. And I think it's an easily digestible format for people, like the question answer. It makes it simple for people to get what they want. So I would kind of start there. And we have a couple of good options for our website. We actually have a template that is an FAQ group. So I could use the content that this committee decides on, and I could put that in an FAQ group on some new website pages that we decide on. So, or we could use our SMORE newsletter platform that we send our newsletters out. I've seen other districts use that platform to create FAQs as well. And those are two good formats that we've gotten good feedback about from families and community members. So those are both options there.
What is the s'mores thing?
Have you seen our district newsletter,
Yeah.
Steve?
Yeah.
We use the SMORE newsletter platform to put together
see.
the district newsletter. And a lot of other districts, when they're preparing their budget information and they want to release FAQs about the budget, they put it into the SMORE newsletter platform.
Okay.
And they have found that families and community members really love that platform and find it very easy to navigate. And you could
Sure.
just put a link on this new website we're going to create to the SMORE newsletter. So that's an option that we have. So
Okay.
Excellent.
Asher, I cut you off if you want to.
No, I just it sounds like we have two objectives that are sort of surfacing here. One is how do we better educate and equip the community understanding what the hell is going on in this crazy and sort of constantly changing time. And as part of that, understanding the context for where the school board fits in that broader puzzle. And it sounds like Shannon, I mean, looking through the materials, like this content can be some subset or all of it or whatever can be pulled onto the website, and this group can decide like what portion of that goes up, and we have places to put that on the website, and there's just a decision to be made of like how much of the scope do we want to put up there. And I think that the thing I would encourage us to think about is just how do we keep it up to date? The more that we put up there, the more we have to make sure, like, even the comparison of the couple different proposals, that's going to change as those proposals change versus, some of the other stuff. So that seems like one. There's a second objective, which is how do we help the community understand the work that's being done with Truex, the options, and why the board is looking at these various options. That is something that we don't yet have content for and can pull together, and that's sort of a second objective to go up on the website. Does that sound right?
I think so. I mean, it sounds like we're moving towards two specific tasks. One, to get up a consolidation web page, and one to get up a web page about frequently asked questions for what's going on in general with ed reform in the state. Do we agree?
My worry when we talk about the consolidation options page is, I'm sure, Asher, I'm sure you have great insight into how to make that not strike fear into community members. That is an issue for me. As we've slowed things down a tiny bit to get this assessment work done. Is there a way that, like, like some of the real clear data that I think people want to see is what is that deferred maintenance per building, and how does that figure into the potential for closing a school? We've definitely heard that. So I think that the very solid things like how much is it? It's going to cost however many millions to do this. It's going to cost this many at this school and this. That I think is information people really want to know. So I'd love for us to have data on there, but I really am cautious about how we present those options as like the only 5 ways forward. Like that, I don't want that just starts people's heads rolling again. I want to make sure that we're set, I don't know what I'm trying to say is I just want to be real sensitive about how we're saying things and what they mean. Because as you just pointed out, the school board has a role in it, but it takes a lot. It would take the school board would have had to have a lot of community engagement and acceptance for any moving forward of anything like that. So I just want it to be gentle. I want the messaging to not be too hardcore, if that makes any sense.
Well, aren't we,
Rebecca?
thanks. I mean, I imagine that data related to the buildings and the cost is it's what we're paying Truex Collins for. They should be able to give us
Yeah.
a copy that Asher should be able to just cut and paste and put in there. So that feels like something we shouldn't have to think too much about, right?
Right.
That
But we-
information.
But we
But I'm
want the
wondering
webpage up. We want the webpage up sooner rather than later, right?
To
But
have
we
a
don't have
place
that
to put stuff.
information.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we have a time. Do we have a time crunch? I mean, the sun just came out. People are remembering that summer's coming, and school's almost over. But that's
I'm not on a
but
huge
when
time
I
crunch.
heard,
Yeah.
is it Asher or Asher? Asher, Asher?
ASH.
Asher. Yeah, but you can call me Ashley.
Asher. I heard you lay out the first objective of the landscape with the state level stuff and where we sit in that. And that lines up for me as like the one objective. The second is besides the Truex work, which we're not going to have, and any work around consolidation is really be contingent on what, the decisions at the state level of how they're going to redistrict and make decisions about 25 kids per classroom or 18 or whatever, right? So those are slightly out of our hands, but what's in our hands in real time is the Harwood bond, right? Are we still trying to get money to fix Harwood?
We don't know.
Well, no matter what happens at the state level, I understand that my brilliant solution of using duct tape
Won't fix
doesn't really
everything.
fly.
I mean,
Well,
all of the
I love
options
that you
include.
brought that up.
Wait, wait. Who's talking?
Go ahead.
Uh,
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I was going to say, yes, Rebecca, that bond issue is still out there. To me, the bond issue has morphed a little bit. When we were out touting the bond before Act 127 in our failed budget in 24, we were talking about a $50 to $100 million bond to make it the best it could be and fix all of its problems and that was a bond. Now we're talking about a bond, to me, that involves more than one school, right? I don't think we're going to get several bonds past these communities. Maybe we will, but is it all or nothing? I guess that's a question for, I don't know what the answer is there. Is it one big bond to fix various schools? Is it a big bond to fix up Harwood? Or is it a bond to make the Waitsfield school big enough to absorb? I mean, all of that combined is too much money, right? That's $200 million. So, or more. So I'm sorry, I'm babbling, but I'm not sure the bond conversation is about Harwood. I'm not sure if it's solely about that.
Hold on just 1 second though. Like this is Steve and I've had a back and forth on this, and this is like, this is where I think that there is a vacuum of information. We know that when there's a vacuum of information, it's not a good thing. Like that is just it's not a good thing when there's vacuum information. So we need the public to understand why the decision to go and evaluate these various options has been made. And now there's a set of options which include a bunch of savings numbers and a bunch of cost. And that cost in all instances includes a bond to get rid of all the deferred maintenance and to make whatever changes and configurations in the school. And I think a successful web page would articulate both why the board is looking at this and has sort of made the decisions it's made to this date, and the fact that, and the reason why I think this is this like there's a real positive sort of in all of this is that we need to fix our schools. We need to address the deferred maintenance, and essentially what the Truex study shows to date is that in all instances, it makes sense to pass a bond and address the deferred maintenance. What I think is not clear is how much of that maintenance is getting addressed in their bond that they're outlining. And if we can actually articulate that in really simple terms, we don't have to have all of the numbers and all of that, but if we can explain it in very like simple terms, which is it is much more effective to invest in our schools now and configure them for the next 30 years. It's going to generate a ton of savings. And here's the benefits in the short, medium, and long term to our schools. And we're evaluating what the best configuration is of those options to get here. And here's the general timeline. That's going to fill the vacuum with like, oh, okay, I understand sort of the logic that's going into that. And that to me seems like it would be success, but I haven't really been able to get my arms around like some of those basic numbers to be able to put that information together.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, and it's true that Asher and I, we went through JB, but we had a hard time getting out of Truex the information that the savings they project all includes bonds. So they're kind of a little tough to work with that way. Anyway, Bobby,
I just wanted to also say, and this was something that came about the first time with our first group. We weren't even called outreach then, but the idea that we also have to talk about what is working in our schools, because I think with all of this, people keep hearing all these negative things. Well, they don't necessarily apply to us, and so really celebrating that, and I think. Shannon two or whoever that not Shannon not Shannon W, the other Shannon, he talked about a community engagement calendar. I mean, really, those are the two things I think Rebecca brought about, the engagement. And so how do you keep people engaged? Well, they get excited about things. They want to do things. And by the way, Rebecca, I have a T-shirt for you that says Harwood Union School Board. And we were trying to wear those to events. We did things, like gave away balloons and talked about the budget and passing it and really getting out the farmers market and having a presence in the community, which can happen during the summer. There's no reason why we can't have a couple of things, a couple of events or something that are fun and engaging to families maybe who come to the farmers market, or Waterbury has, they don't have a farmers market, but they have something else. So anyway, I just didn't want to lose sight of that, the positive things. But I really like the other piece that Asher was saying, and I'd like to share with people, the Waitsfield slideshow that they did this year that the new town manager put together. It was simple, it was clear, it just broke things down so simply. And I kept saying, oh, this is what we need to do. really just, not like I mean, with the education, keep it short and sweet, as Cindy was saying too, just very simple, basic, what needs to be said and what Ashley was just saying, could be done in a nice, clean format.
Hey, Bobby,
Yeah,
Waterbury
yeah.
does have a farmer's market every Thursday, all through the summer.
I
early
thought
fall.
they were canceling it.
Yeah.
They canceled it at one point.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's new. It's new.
But maybe it's back. Maybe it's back.
No,
I don't know.
that. I just know.
So for our objective 1 and 2, am I wrong that Shannon has a lot of Shannon you has a
I
lot
feel
of
like it's
content.
the OG and then there's me. So like
The OG and the
The OG
the
and the
FNG?
new G. There we go.
So Shannon has a lot of content and Asher's ready to put it on, and they both hit objective 1 and 2, right?
Right.
Yep.
I mean, to me, that's an accomplishment for
It's a
this
great
meeting.
start if we do
It's a
that.
great start. And
Yeah.
then I would like to circle back, maybe not at this meeting, to Bobby's point that there's a lot of other outreach to be done with,
yeah.
getting out there, physically out there in the
Yeah.
community. Or, I mean, I post on Front Porch Forum every couple weeks, more if it's a crisis time. And, I say, okay, I'm a board member, but this is my opinion. And I get a lot of positive feedback, people just saying, we appreciate keeping us informed on this stuff. I get some negative feedback too, but that's okay.
So you're saying maybe we need to post more on Front Porch Forum in like real time, like have everybody doing that or have more. I mean, I don't do that.
Yeah.
Don't do that currently.
And the first couple of times, I really sweated bullets to write something that I thought wouldn't be too offensive or, make me feel like I was naked but now I'm used to it. Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah. So it sounds like a third thing, which might not be for tonight and maybe who knows when, but identify some various ways to engage with the community. So Front Porch Forum, I love the farmers market. There's also a way you could do divvy up time and just host, you could do virtual coffee hours, there's ways to sort of like reach people where you don't have to leave your house. Do coffee hours like the legislators do. That's huge. I do actually think it would be fun if you had neon shirts that said, that you were on the school board and that you wanted to talk, like ask me a question. I think that's hilarious, and just like walk around town with them. I'm not gonna say like guerrilla, marketing. Like I sort of am into that on some.
That's hilarious. Right now they're black. You blend in.
Oh no, you need
because
neon.
they're black.
Yeah, neon. I think neon is better.
Ask me a question.
Tie-dyes. They should be tie-dyes.
Well, we did them in the Harwood colors, but that was just that was just to identify us. But I love this idea.
She's gonna go shopping. Watch this.
And then I can think of some other suggestions and make a huge document, and you guys just pick and pull. You know what I mean? Like I don't know what works for you all, and clearly people's comfort levels are different.
Yeah,
so
right.
not everyone wants to post on Front Porch Forum. That's fine. And then creating information for the OG Shannon to utilize in school newsletters. So I was curious, we're allowed to use that, or you guys are allowed to use that as an outreach communication tool,
And
or
as outreach, but not advocating specific positions.
okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. Like we can't tell people how to vote.
But we can tell people to get out and vote.
But we can tell them to get out.
Yeah.
Right. And then the information is here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that clear on just the next steps with so there's basically Shannon DK's document, which great can basically pull from and put up on the website, which sounds like, you know, Shannon Wisdom, you're the one that's putting things up. In terms of the consolidation and Truex information, my thinking, especially after this conversation, is that we're just not really clear on what we want to say, which is the challenge that probably Ashley you're feeling in
Yeah.
having conversations with community. And so I think that we should start forget putting it up on the web page. We need to start with a web page that's not up on the web and that we
Work
get
on.
really aligned on what it is that we actually want to say. Like, do these options with Truex include fixing Harwood or do they not? Like, we need to actually make sure we're clear on the facts and clear so I can take the action on that to just put together an initial, very short, very tight little draft to use as like, let's just get aligned on what we want to say, and then we can figure out, okay, what are we going to put on the website versus what do we just have as talking points,
Okay,
etc.
but and that's terrific. Even that draft, I think, is a public document, so it has to say draft in big red letters all over it.
Okay, that's totally fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Asher. And like I was thinking that like the initial information that could be on there is when they start to bring us data from Truex on how much different things cost. We can, if we have a full number on a school, that's information that we could put up there. I really like the idea of taking it slow. I honestly would love for, and selfishly maybe a little bit, but really for our communities to not really spend the whole freaking summer worrying about this. You know, we've got a lot of Truex will take their time. It's going to take a minute. You know, I don't want everybody feeling like the need to protest all summer because they're feeling like they're dropping the ball. I want everyone to realize that we're taking the time. So if we can just, I love a draft. I love a draft. I think that sounds
Yeah.
good.
I want us to move ahead so that we're not caught out short when Truex gives us the figures. That we're kind of
Yep.
ready to go.
I ready to drop in, but also ready to, as Asher's saying, like, is it with Harwood? Is the Harwood piece now different than what we were talking about before? You know, are we, you know, obviously we're being very cautious. We don't want to, you know, make it too big because that's just too big is not going to fly. So, you know, I think there's a few questions there.
Okay. Uh, OG Shannon.
I like that.
So what are my goals to get something up before the end of the school year? Like, what do you want me to have up before the school year ends?
I like that FAQ for the state, you know, what some, you know, some of this data that people are asking us, it would be good to have that.
And
Do you want, the FAQ is long. Do you want me to make the decision about the question, which elements of the FAQ I put up? Do you want me to
yeah,
work with Mike
yeah,
on that?
you make the decision and we all have access to it. And if we don't like it, we'll complain.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
consult with Mike on that. That's a good idea. Yeah.
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 For sure.
And Asher, you're going to throw together a draft that's kind of independent of Shannon for the moment?
Yep. Separate
Okay.
thread.
Okay. Okay. And new Shannon, are you happy with the way your material is being used? Is there stuff you feel, I mean, you put together so much. Is there other stuff you feel we really should be looking into?
No, I said what I thought we should do, which is, sort of have an FAQ and make sure that we're educating, as much as we're trying to inform. And honestly, the reason I put so much out there is I was trying not to miss something and
No.
put more weight on
loved
someone
it.
else having to do something.
Yeah.
Thank you,
So,
Shannon.
yeah, so I'm still gonna give you more, so yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. I'm going to suggest that we set a date for another meeting, and the agenda for the next meeting would be kind of updates on what, on the two websites we've discussed tonight, and then focusing on other forms of community engagement.
I think that's a great idea. Bobby, you and I could talk about using the farmer's market and then how we could, because Ben last year, just everybody knows, Ben Clark bought a very cool interface that he can bring to the farmer's market that's like this big, and it's a big screen, so they can run through they can have data up or pictures up or whatever to engage the public at the farmer's market. And if we were all wearing hideous neon shirts that said, "Come and ask me a question, I'm a school board member," that could be kind of a novel approach. I would love to chat that through with you, Bobby.
Yeah.
And
Didn't I buy a tent? I thought I had a tent someplace. I don't know where.
Yeah,
a
we
little
had one.
pop-up. I think we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
what
that's
And-
a good idea.
And I would like to encourage board members to go on Front Porch Forum. Like somebody said, it's not everybody's thing. But
Right.
I
But on a
got good
given
feedback.
topic, that I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I
Okay,
like that. Those little coffee, Zoom coffee things,
Yeah.
virtual coffee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds great.
Okay, can we look at our calendars and try to pick another time?
Rebecca, you look like you have a question. No.
Nope.
So we're looking at our calendars for how far out? A month?
A month. Sure.
New Shannon, when do you come back from your away?
Yeah.
The 24th of May.
Good for you.
Good for
And
you.
I'm on vacation May 24th through June 2nd.
Hmm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
Can we come back like like later in June? Not later in June, but like the second week of June?
Yeah.
I think that works.
Should we
I
say,
work all through the summer, so I can get this stuff up on the website anytime. I'm a year-round employee.
yeah, what about Monday, June 9th?
I just had my thumb on that. That works for me.
Works for
Me
me.
Sounds
Okay,
good.
again at 7:30, is that good?
Mm-hmm.
That also works. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I can adjust if other people need it earlier or whatever. Oh, okay, public outing.
Well, now we want to propose the idea that we are the engagement and outreach committee, or outreach and engagement.
I like that. I actually think that makes it sounds like, yeah, because we
Okay.
really, I don't know if we need to make it official though, but I'll write that.
I'll bet the board has to vote on it.
Yeah, we probably do.
So we can put the agenda for
And it's
next
part of reorganizing. This an
Yeah.
ad hoc committee, and it's part of the yeah.
And we're changing the name. And I just want to say to Asher and Shannon and both Shannons, thank you for joining our committee. This is going to be really positive.
I really want to second that. I mean, it's just so great. Like last year, I felt like, I was making it up as I went along. and
Yeah,
it's
we
really
were
nice
building
to,
the road. It's true.
really
And
nice to
now,
have people with background and expertise. Makes a
Very
huge
We
important.
difference.
were responding to a crisis.
I know, but this is,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
is the response, right? People stepped up. So
Yeah.
it's really,
Super,
it's really
super
positive.
appreciated.
Yeah.
Right.
Still a crisis, you guys.
Yeah.
Open up.
Okay, are we good for the moment?
Does somebody want to make a motion?
make a motion?
adjourn?
Go
Yeah,
for it.
please.
Okay. I guess
Becky
second.
made a motion to adjourn. A second, anybody?
Second.
Okay. Thanks very much. We're good.
Yeah. Thanks,
a
everybody.
lot,
Have a
everyone.
great trip. Have a
Yeah,
blast.
yeah.
Thanks.
All right.
Oh,
See you
take care.
all in a little bit more than a month.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.